Hi, my name is Brittany, and I'm going to be doing a presentation on workplace violence. So, what is workplace violence? Workplace violence is violence in the form of a threat of violence or actual violence against workers in the workplace. This can range from verbal threats to physical assault, homicide, which is the leading cause of job-related deaths. So in my scenario of my conflict scenario, I did a worker by the name of Annie, and this worker, she gossips behind other people's backs, kind of in front of them, but behind their backs. She also speaks in a rude manner towards her coworkers. She's given the assignment as charge nurse often, and when she does this, if you're on Annie's bad side, then Annie will give you a bad work assignment. And what this means is she kind of borders on the line of unsafe shifts by giving you a heavy workload of patients. And then often when you're supposed to call on the charge nurse for help, Annie doesn't help you and then watches you struggle. She also pulls nurses away at the end of the day when they're in the middle of report with other nurses so that she can give them report rather than waiting her turn. Annie also will make it appear as though you're very slow at the Pyxis, where that's quiet time during pulling medications. She could be rude, loud, and obnoxious, and she can say things such as, geez, you're taking so much time. Can you just hurry up? Hey, can I just skip in front of you real quick? And then when people kind of rebuttal against her and don't let her get her way, then that's when she assigns these bad workloads to her. So in the steps of conflict resolution, we have comprising, competing, cooperating, and accommodating, as well as smoothing, avoiding, and collaborating. So with this in comprising, this would be where both parties are involved and would give up something of which they both desire. In competing, in this situation, only one party gets what they want, no matter the effect it has on the others involved. With cooperating and accommodating, this approach, only one party is willing to surrender, whereas despite how the other feel about the situation. Smoothing, this strategy involves identifying focus of common grounds in an effort to pacify the individuals. In avoiding, both parties are trying to ignore the situation in which it's not really conducive to resolving the conflict. And collaborating, this resolution requires two of the conflicting parties to identify common goals, working towards a mutual common goal. So how would each specifically be used to resolve the conflict? So in this case with Annie, in comprising this situation, the nurses on the unit have already been comprising a whole lot. They're giving up a lot in this situation, so Annie's really getting benefiting from everything, whereas they're losing everything. Competing, as we see with Annie dominating and took advantage of the different situations, she's kind of getting what she wants by making the other feel slow at the Pyxis, inferior while giving report, and comprising the nurse's dignities and jeopardizing the nurse's license and proper care of the patients with unsafe assignments. Cooperating and accommodating, we see that in this situation it's going to be the coworkers willing to allow Annie to cut them at the Pyxis and kind of get her way, and allow her to pull the nurses away during report. So she's kind of giving up so that they're not getting a bad shift assignment next time when she's in charge. Smoothing. In this situation, any of the nurses could ask Annie if she's busy so that before they go in and pull meds, they can see if she needs to get meds before they start in at the Pyxis to kind of avoid her rushing in and trying to get meds, to kind of avoid that scenario. And then with collaborating, the nurses at the Pyxis can say, I have time-sensitive medications and I need to pull this, medication for my patient and get it to them right away. If you have a time-sensitive medication too, I can let you pull that one once I finish pulling my med. And then that way neither one of us get behind. So it kind of gives them kind of common ground so that neither one of them, they both realize that their time is valuable. Negotiating before, during, and after. So when you're negotiating before, if in this situation it would have been appropriate for Annie before the start of the shift to tell her good morning and that I hope you both can have a great day, and state how if there's anything that they can do to help each other, let them know, and vice versa. Negotiating during. This would be pulling Annie aside and discussing my concerns with the assignment and why it feels unsafe, and explain to Annie that she's busy and needs help finishing passing medications, but once that she's done, that she'd be more than willing to help assist her. So in the midst of when Annie's doing what she's doing to her, she can kind of stand ground and say, I'm busy, you can't cut in front of me, but as soon as I'm done, I'll help you pass meds, offering a reason why she's not going to let her skip her at the Pyxis. And then negotiating afterwards, since the situation has got to a point where it's unsafe assignments being distributed, she should notify the manager of the situation and then resolve it with the manager present, and then that way she doesn't have to worry about retaliation the next time that Annie's charge nurse. So destructive techniques for resolving conflict. You have aggressively talking over, you have flattery, and then you have helplessness. So aggressively talking over, that kind of makes sense. You're not allowing the other person to talk and you're doing it in an aggressive manner. Your flattery, it's a tactic of distracting the person's attention from the real situation at hand and causing the other person to agree. And then helplessness is a way to kind of gain sympathy. Delegation scenario, 58-year-old post-cholecystectomy is the case that we did. And we asked the ACP to help walk this patient that is ordered to ambulate 3 times a day. And the nurse has assessed this patient and determined that it's safe for the patient care tech to walk and ambulate the patient. And the PCT is made aware of the fact that she has to stay near the patient, that she can't just let the patient get up alone and ambulate. The PCT was given a distant goal for the nurse, from the nurse for the patient and the PCT to follow, so she wanted her to walk to the end of the nursing station and back. And then the PCT was also given instructions on what to do should the patient become dizzy or have any symptoms, that she would return the patient right to the chair immediately and then notify the nurse should there any problems arise. And then she waited for the nurse, or I'm sorry, the PCT to accept the task of delegation. She told her that she wanted this to be done before lunch, and then asked the PCT is that something that she felt that she would be able to do before her lunch break. And then by the PCT accepting this, then that's when true delegation can take place. The 5 rights of delegation are right task, right circumstance, right person, the right direction communication, and the level of supervision. On this slide, we did the defining what each of those 5 rights of delegation of tasks are. So the right task, again, making sure that when you're delegating a task that it's to the right, that it's the right task that can be delegating. In this scenario, ambulating is an okay task, appropriate for a tech to delegate, a nurse to delegate to a PCT or an ACP. Right circumstance. So this patient post cholecystectomy was okay. That's a proper patient to delegate to the ACP. Had it been a more unstable patient, then that would not have been the right circumstance. But this patient was stable and able to ambulate. The right person, the PCT again is qualified for ambulation, so we're delegating it to the right person. And we have the right patient's orders that we delegated to the PCT, so we clarified that. Right direction and right communication, the nurse again made sure that she communicated side effects, distant goals, all of that. Those were proper means of communication. She didn't just say go ambulate them and then didn't say anything further. And then right level of supervision, she made sure that she notified the tech to stay with her at all times. And again, the tech was the one that was going to be overseeing that task, and at all times the nurse is overseeing, with her license, she's overseeing that tech when she delegates a responsibility. This goes over, this slide, again, just it's the third scenario of delegating appropriate scenarios. So in this case, we had Miss Henderson. Again, we just spoke about delegating ambulation to the PCT, whether it was the right circumstance, the right person, communication, and supervision. So I kind of just went through this with you. Delegation error. So under-delegating can be an error. It can also get us quite behind. So tasks are not delegated out of fear or being perceived as lazy, because fear that the task will not be done correctly. Under-delegating can also occur if the individual feels that the tasks are better handled themselves. So to get things done efficiently and effectively, sometimes we have to delegate things appropriately. Over-delegating. You don't want to over-delegate. This can occur due to poor time management or the lack of ability to complete tasks. So you want to make sure that you're only delegating when necessary. And then improper delegating. You always want to make sure that when you're delegating something, again, you're using those 5 rights of delegation, and that you're practicing within your scope, and again, that you're maintaining those delegation rights within someone else's scope of practice as well, and you're not asking them to perform something outside of their scope of practice. So a healthy work environment. A healthy work environment is defined by the WHO as a place of physical, mental, and social well-being, which supports optimal health and safety. So I personally feel that I work in a healthy work environment at my work. A healthy work environment, components of a healthy work environment is skilled communication, true collaboration. This fosters and pursuing collaboration. Effective decision making. This is where value and committed to making policy, directing, and effective care. Appropriate staffing. You want to make sure that you're well staffed. Meaningful recognition and authentic leadership. My present work environment, again, all the nurses work together as a team. It's very team oriented. And we work with professionalism, efficiency in the pre-op, making sure that procedures are done, recover the patients, and we discharge them home. And the staff works well together and interacts with one another. And again, our environment is safe, healthy, and the patients leave satisfied. So effective leaders,